Hi, I'm Steve Murray, and I am the head baseball coach at Neosho County Community College. And I was asked to do this video to encourage some of you to try something new if you haven't already learned about it. And I'm just out to help pay it forward and spread the word. I was a 268-pound man about 18 months ago. I avoided doctors like the plague for the simple fact that I was nervous that I would be told I had stage 4 cancer. My father had died of cancer in a 6-week time frame. My wife, Kim, told me I had to go get a colonoscopy and a EGD, which is when they go down your throat, and she had scheduled it 6 months in advance, so I wasn't overly worried about it. In those 6 months, as soon as I finished our baseball season, I happened to have a rash of kidney stones, and I had to go to the hospital, and they did blood tests, and when they came out, I was basically told that I was a type 2 diabetic. I was also told at that point in time, you got about 6 months before you have a massive coronary or you have a stroke because you're so overweight and out of shape. So at that point in time, being a coach, I decided that I needed to do something about this. I very quickly went and bought what's called a Fitbit. And it's just a thing that goes on your wrist, and it tells you how many steps a day you do and what have you. And my wife would tell me, you are going to walk. Well, the farthest I had walked in the past was I went to the refrigerator and back to grab a snack. And she started me with 1 mile, gave me 2 bottles of water, and I'm going to be honest with you, that 1 mile was tough for me. But as I started looking at the steps on Fitbit, as a diabetic, you're supposed to get 10,000 steps a day. That's 5 miles. So I had to keep increasing my distances, and now I'm happy to say 18 months later I do 10 miles every single day and don't have any trouble doing that. My cholesterol was over 575 at that point in time. My blood sugars were over 575. My heart rate was 200 over 120, which is a ridiculous number. And, I knew I needed to do something different. Then they told me my A1C, which is a diabetic term, was a 9.9. Within 6 months, I dropped a ton of weight, and I'm happy to tell you now, over the last year, I've maintained where my cholesterol is at 146, my A1C is at 4.9, I've lost 86 pounds, and people ask me all the time, how'd you do that? Well, to be dead honest with you, and I'm not trying to be rude to any doctors because I got great care, but I was told that I could have 75 carbohydrates per meal plus 15 for a snack. Well, as I sat down and adjusted my eating, I kind of felt like I was eating like a king. This wasn't very hard. And I just happened to be at the doctor's office, and a nurse grabbed me and asked me how I was doing. So I told her, and she very quickly told me, "You're eating how many carbohydrates?" And she went on to explain that I was eating about 5 times as many carbs as I should have been as a diabetic. So that night I went home and I immediately researched and researched and researched and finally landed on a plan that I was going to eat 50 carbs a day. And carbohydrates now are known to lead to dementia, to Alzheimer's. They're cancer's biggest process to go after. So I wanted to limit my carbohydrates, and I got down to 50 a day. Now that's tough to do, but I did it, and I was walking 10 miles a day, and all of a sudden the weight just started dropping off me. I now weigh 182 pounds, and again, my numbers are extremely good. The biggest challenge in the whole thing is learning to eat right. I had never ate right. I thought, a glass of milk and a big old piece of chocolate cake was a well-balanced meal. And, very quickly it became apparent how many carbohydrates I was eating, 300 to 500 a day in my old life. And I would just eat because I was bored. Now, I look forward to meals, but I'm eating healthy meals, and I now have mental clarity, and I feel physically phenomenal. So, the biggest challenge to me is giving up foods that you may have thought you couldn't do without, things like rice, pasta, milk, potatoes, potato chips. All of those I've done without for well over a year now, and had to come up with my own substitutions, which I love to cook, so it wasn't very hard. I've shared those recipes with many people. Another big challenge is you have to chart every single thing that went into your mouth. And you know, it's basically holding yourself accountable, and that's kind of how this all started. The day I was diagnosed, I decided to make my fight public. I announced on Facebook how big I was and how much overweight I was and how bad my numbers were. And I did that simply because I knew people would then see me around town and say, hey, there's Fatso, and wonder how he's doing or whatever. But I knew I would be held accountable for what I had said I was going to set out to do. Well, I've done it now. I'm very happy with how I've done it. I now like to pay it forward. I would be willing to help anybody. And I'm just here to tell you, if a 268-pound bald man can do it, you absolutely can do it also.